Hello. Welcome to our Wednesday devotional. Thank you for taking time to join me today. I trust this will be a blessing as we give you basically one thought to challenge you for today. God, I believe, has given every one of us at least one spiritual gift after we're saved. Now, in many of our lives, God's given us spiritual gifts. He's also given us talents and abilities that we can use for His glory. Now, each one of us, whether we have a job or whether we use our brains or our brawn, we can do things to help ourselves to use our abilities. But God gives us these things so we can use them for His glory. In fact, in a devotional this week, I was reading in Luke chapter 12, where the Bible says this in verse 48, "For unto whosoever much is given, of him shall be much required." I want to apply that to your life and my life in this way. Not everyone can do everything. Not everyone can teach. Not everyone can sing. Not everyone can preach, but everyone can do something. And God's given us abilities and talents and gifts so we can serve Him. In a devotional I read this week, I saw 4 thoughts, and I want to take those thoughts, written anonymously, I don't know who wrote the devotional, take those 4 thoughts and share them today. The first one is this: God's work isn't only about you. God's work isn't only about you, and sometimes we think of our gifts and our talents, but it's for His glory. When we use what He's given us and use it for His glory, He's glorified. We don't have to be. We can be a blessing to others. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about serving God by serving others. Secondly, God's work prepares us for greater work. I shared this with the teachers recently in our school. When they give students work at the beginning of the year, sometimes it's not as hard, and so they're training them to get ready for the next chapter or the next part of the work or whatever they're learning. So they have to learn one thing before they can learn the next one. And in our lives as Christians, sometimes God gives us a job to do that will help us prepare for greater work. In regular work situation, not just in Christian work. If you're working flipping hamburgers, they'll teach you to do something before you flipping hamburgers. And you work your way up to the various jobs on a job site. But God's work prepares us for greater work. Same thought, but it goes a little farther. God's work strengthens us for greater challenges. I remember when I first got out of college and took my first ministry, my title was Minister of Music, and that was a pretty big title for a young man in a pretty big church. So I showed up for work the first day, and he said, "Okay, Perdue, your job is to clean the upstairs of this building." I thought I was a minister of music. Well, I was learning that you start at the bottom and work up. And then he said, "Well, you're a minister of music. Let's have a choir special every Sunday morning." So we began to work, and we had that. He said, "Okay, you're doing well. Let's have a choir special every Sunday morning and Sunday night." Okay, we did that. Then he said, "Well, you're a music minister. Let's have a choir special every Sunday morning, every Sunday night, every Wednesday night." And he kept on adding things, putting more on my plate. But you see, what he was doing was allowing me to grow as a musician, as a church worker, and realize that once I learned how to do something, I could do the next step. And God's work strengthens us for greater challenges. And then this, all this goes together, I think. God's work gives us a purpose. We're left here for a purpose. We're given talents and gifts and abilities for a purpose. We're not left here to do nothing. We're left here to do something. And we can impact people even when we're not even trying to impact them if we're doing the right thing. My wife and I, on Sunday, went to lunch, and we're sitting across from a couple, and it was Mother's Day, and so My wife apparently got the eye of the other lady and kind of glanced over and said, "Happy Mother's Day." And she said, "Happy Mother's Day." And they began to engage in a conversation. Well, before they left, we were still speaking with them. And he said, "Don't I know you?" And I identified myself, and yes, he did. Several years ago, they'd had a nephew or someone in our school. So I was able to invite them to church and give them some information about our ministry. Now, that wasn't my purpose, but I have a purpose. And if we're watching for opportunities, God will put them before us all the time. What a joy it is to know that unto whomsoever much is given, of him shall be much required. When God gives you something to do, he gives you a gift, he gives you talents, use it for his glory. What a job we have. What a privilege we have. God bless you today.